Now, do you remember what day this is? World, yes. Close. Yes. World Communion Day, World Communion Sunday. And do you remember the first Sunday that I was here, you got dictionaries, and I said that today, by today, I wanted you to try to find a big word that you could say and tell me what it means. Was anyone able to do that? Anybody have a word for me? Yes. Orchestra. Orchestra, okay. And what is orchestra? A big band that plays music with all different types of music and instruments. Very good. Anybody have another word? Anybody? Well, get those dictionaries out and keep using those and find me more words, but I have a one for you that I talked about before. Do you remember what covenant is? We talked about that last week, covenant. Do you remember that? And I asked you another word. I said, what is a promise? Do you remember? I said, what is a promise? Do you remember? What's a promise?
A promise is something that you promise to somebody.
You tell somebody you're going to do something, and then you do it. Right. And so a covenant is when one person or group makes promises to another person or group, and this other group makes promises back, and you both agree you're going to keep your promises. And that's kind of what happens at the communion table. We make promises to God, and God makes promises to us. And we talked last week about some of the wonderful promises God makes to us, and then how we can make promises also. While God loves us, we can make promises also to love God and to love one another. Now, I also told you last week, we're going to do two more things here. I told you last week, you know church mouse. You all know church mouse, right? You've met church mouse now. Has anybody not met church mouse yet? This is church mouse. This is church mouse. Church mouse, remember, those of you that have been here, runs around the church and finds out what's going on. And she keeps me informed, and sometimes she's going to tell you. She went to a meeting on Wednesday night about something very important that's going to happen at our church in 2 weeks, actually a little less than 2 weeks. How many of you would like to come and have a pajama party or a sleepover with me at our church in 2 weeks on a Saturday night? Okay? If your moms and dads or grandmas and grandpas or aunts and uncles will let you come, we're going to have an all-church-wide pajama party. And the reason we're going to do that is because the marathon is going to happen, like thousands and thousands of people are going to be right outside here. So we're going to spend the night on Saturday night, and we're going to have worship Sunday morning for some of the runners. At guess what time in the morning? 6:30. 6:30, that's about right. It's going to be way early in the morning, so we thought we better just come and stay in the church that night because it's going to be really hard to get in that morning. So we're going to have...
It'll be 7 o'clock.
Well, you know, at 7 o'clock, it's going to be almost time for the runners to start. So we've got to be done in here and out there to say a prayer for the runners before they start on this great big long race that takes hours for some people, some hours for everybody and lots of hours for some. So Church Mouse is hoping that she's brought this information to you in time that you will be able to talk to your moms and dads and bring them along and have a pajama party with us here at the church in a couple of weeks, okay? So see if you can do that. Now, Church Mouse is going to go back in here, and we are going for a walk. You probably don't usually go for a walk during children's time, but come with me. We're going to go for a walk. And if you were hearing what the senior highs were reading this morning, they were talking about Jesus walking along the road to Emmaus. That was a city. And some awful things had happened. They had just found out that Jesus had died. They knew Jesus had died just about 3 days before that, you know. And so they were feeling really sad and really bad. But Jesus came along and was walking with them and saying, hi, and how are you doing, and what's going on? And they were kind of surprised that Jesus didn't know what was going on. And they said, don't you know what's really happening? Haven't you heard the awful things that have happened? That Jesus was killed? And we really, really, really had thought that he was going to free our nation, that he was going to come and make good things happen for us. So now we're going to have to get down the aisle we're going, we're going to have to go all the way out here for a long walk. So come on, let's go all the way out here. So we're kind of walking down the road to Emmaus like Jesus was with a couple of his disciples, the people that followed him. And they were telling him all the things that had happened, and he started talking with them, and they were having a conversation. You know how you get with your friends, and you're having a conversation, and you're learning about things and sharing the events of the day. And it was getting really, really late. And so they got to the place where these two people lived, and they said to him, well, you know, it's really late. Why don't you come and have an overnight with us? Let's have a sleepover. You come stay with us because it's getting dark, and it's getting too late for you to keep traveling. So Jesus said he would go in with them, and they sat down. He was going to spend the night, and they got to the table, and they sat down, kind of a table sort of like this, I bet. So we can come and kind of get around this table. And so they were sitting at the table, and they were talking, and they were sharing fellowship together, and they were saying about how they were feeling about things. And Jesus took a piece of bread, a loaf of bread, and he broke it, and he gave it to them. And all of a sudden, even though they had not known who he was before, somehow when he broke the bread and handed it to them like this, their eyes were opened, and all of a sudden they thought, oh my gosh, it's Jesus. And they knew who he was. And then all of a sudden, Jesus disappeared. And they went to tell their friends what had happened. Amazing things happen at tables. Thanks for coming today. See you next time.